So my name is Adam Grodzki. I am the founder and CEO of 3S Game Studio. We are just a small indie game developer in Estonia. And as you mentioned, we are working on Unreal Engine plugin for IPFS. So what we are working for is a way that you can use IPFS for gaming, both single player and multiplayer, in a way that you are already used to when you are developing in Unreal Engine, both 4 and 5. And you don't need to learn how it works. You don't need to change the way that you are coding your game, and it will fit both ongoing projects and projects that someone is starting fresh. So some of the core usabilities is, of course, uploading and downloading files, but also asynchronous streaming files directly into memory, and loading and parsing those files into common used data like strings that can be JSON, they can be parameters, images that are already parsed as usable texture 2D that can be used as a parameter for basically anything in game, and sound waves, and also some of more advanced use cases that I'm going to cover next. It will allow you to basically do very fast replication of very big data in multiplayer games. It will allow you to patch and modify games without even restarting them, and it will also allow you to encapsulate plugins and game features and load them dynamically while playing the game. So there's, depending on how the developer wants to use it. Some of the problem that it's solving is continuous disk space creep. Currently, game installations can go really even above 200 gigabytes. It's not such a problem for PC, but it's a great problem on consoles. Switching visuals, so you can, for example, code in different visuals for your game, different visuals for low end and high end, and usually you do that with LOD system and complex LOD switching on runtime, but you could just switch the entire model, because why not? And you can also distribute user-generated content in a very easy way. So one of the really cool features that we found out while developing the plugin is that you can store basically any data through save game files. And save game files are special objects in Unreal Engine that already have full functionality for saving and loading directly from the disk, and it can store and understand data that, for example, you cannot replicate over network, like custom structures and complex data assets. But you can store them as save game files. You can upload them to IPFS and download on a second client and recreate the exact same data on premise. So some of the really cool use cases is just using IPFS as a save game cloud service, and save game cloud service goes way beyond just the state of the game. It can save cosmetic items, player blueprints. If you have a building game, it can store the entire building blueprint. That is a very complex asset, and you can just store it as a file. And for multiplayer games, it really solves a lot of issues, because you can share really big data with a simple replication of just the CID, and just then recreate the data on premise. And one of the final features that we found that is extremely cool and really amazing and game-changing for game development as a whole is sending the entire package files. When you are packaging the game, you can create chunks, and those chunks can be loaded at runtime. So what if you create thousands of chunks for thousands of assets that you have inside your game that encapsulate the entire asset with their material, setup and everything, upload it to IPFS, and then download it on demand on premise, which means that you can go down really greatly with installations. And there are games already on the market that has like a launcher that allows you to play the game before it is completely downloaded, but it is still trying to download the full game, and it's still trying to manage the entire game from your local disk. What we came up with while doing our experiments is that we could go down from 2 gigabytes of data inside the game down to a 40 megabytes absolute minimum, and the rest is being downloaded and deleted as it is needed, or it is not needed anymore for that user. So this is a very generic plugin. It is a Web3 plugin, but it is not only for Web3 developers. It is very useful for both single-player games when you can have modular content and you might not require the player to download the entire game immediately, and it can be downloaded on demand. You can have cloud saving of user-created content. You can share that content in between players in a very simple manner through the sharing of CIDs, and you have a lot more installation. For multiplayer, it solves a lot of problems. We are currently developing a very complex multiplayer game that was basically very limited without the use of IPFS, and now we can get our imagination run wild a bit with it. So we can distribute updates very fast. We don't even have to make a full rebuild of the game, especially if the game is data-driven and you're storing data inside in-game assets like data tables or CSV files. So we can patch the game, and we can also deliver continuously new assets to a multiplayer game. And it has a full Blueprint and C++ support. So like I said, it doesn't change the way that you are developing games right now. And it should be available on Unreal Engine for Marketplace shortly. IPFS is very compatible with blockchain technologies, and currently a lot of just NFTs that are trying to be used inside Web3 games. They have all the data being stored within IPFS. So with this plugin, you can fetch this data, you can get the JSON, you can parse it very easily inside the game engine, and you can use the images, you can use the parameters, and you can grant access to content, access to areas, grant ownership over multiplayer objects. It's just another level of managing content through this system. So currently the plugin is in review. It should be accessible to everyone through the official Unreal Engine Marketplace yet this month. Thank you.